What does non-duality give you? Dun, dun, dun. What does non-duality give you? Yeah, what does it give you? It doesn't actually give you anything. Non-duality has absolutely nothing to do with you. Nothing. Who you are is this consciousness which is free. Or this alive presence, or you could say this moment, that is not something that's conscious of something else. So it's not that there's like a consciousness behind here that's conscious of everything. It's not separate from everything. So all there is consciousness, and this is who you are. But what's happened is there's been this contraction that's arisen inside the body, and this identity that's formed that makes it feel like you are the body, that you are somebody inside here, and that consciousness is inside the body, that you're walking around and this consciousness that's everywhere, so your essence which is everywhere and everything and isn't suffering, is kind of sucked into this body, even though it's not really, because there's consciousness and it's everywhere and it's free. But you walk around and there's this feeling that that you're inside the body and you're looking from inside the body. And that you're in relationship with the world. Whereas this is a lie and this isn't true. But that you that wants to wake up is a contraction inside the body. It's a character, it's a person inside the body. It's not actually consciousness. So consciousness doesn't want to wake up or sleep. Consciousness is inherently free. It's nature, who you are, who's looking now, who's experiencing, is free. And it's got nothing to do with this person that wants a better future or wants to wake up in the future or wants something different from this moment. Consciousness is only ever here. It's still and it's silent and it's in all things. It's no thing, not one thing that you can find, and it's all things, everything. There's not really much more that can be said about it. It's free, it's here. what creates the illusion of the person is this seeking. You'll notice the person is always seeking for something. So at the moment, I'm looking after my friend's dogs. So there's 2 dogs, and we're a mammal, so we've got similarity to dog, even though we've got more intelligent brain. And the dogs, when I look at the dogs, and I'm sure other people interpret their behavior really differently, but when I look at them, what I see is these animals that are always looking for food and to put themselves in the best position to possibly get food and to move towards that which makes them stronger in order to get food. And it's all about food. So if I sit down on the sofa, the little dog associates that the strongest, highest position is to be on my lap. The closer he can be to me, then the more powerful he is, and then the more he can obtain food and he can survive better. Whereas Khaleesi, because she's not a domesticated dog and she doesn't have the genetics of a domesticated dog, she doesn't have that tendency to think that I'm her source of food, even though I give her food. So she comes to me for food, and when she's hungry, she like stamps her foot and looks at me and is like, woof! She is very aloof, and she prefers to sit in the garden, and she's like stalking things and watching things, and sit on the balcony and watch. And she doesn't see me just as her piece of meat or piece of chicken, even though she associates it with me to an extent. And when they're together, like Khaleesi doesn't like him always jumping on me and being on my lap, because she sees that as competition. So she'd prefer he doesn't. She doesn't really try to stop him, but if she can, she'll run in front of him so he can't get up, or she'll try to compete to an extent, but she's not a needy dog at all, because genetically she's not got domestication in her. We bred dogs to be dependent and needy on us so we could manipulate them to do things for us. So we bred this. And we've also bred in our society that we're all dependent on each other for food. So therefore we're all very social animals, because we're all dependent on each other for food. So I see humans as exactly the same. Fundamentally what it comes down to is everyone is trying to survive, and we've got all these layers of bullshit story on top. That, oh no, I love him for the rest of my life and we're soulmates, or I want to have a child because I feel like more spiritually minded people and like-minded people should have children, or I want to have a child so I can give it a better life than what I've had, or whatever it is. Whereas actually, fundamentally, in all of these initial urges that come up into the body, it's about surviving and carrying on the survival of the human race. And then we put our romantic stories to it, which I don't mind. I mean, it's all stories, and even me talking about the evolution of a human race is a story in a way. But I think that it makes it a lot more simpler for you if you're realistic about what your urges are and what other people's urges are. And we get into so many complicated dynamics and dramas because we're not willing to admit what it is we want in each moment. And normally what we want is to be in the best possible position for survival, whether that be feel loved, whether that be having food, whether that having a good job, whether it be getting on with people. All of these are about survival. So the human surviving. And then what we do is we form this person that's got to survive. So then we form, so not only do we have the urges, so we have this urge and instinct to survive, we then create this character which we believe ourselves to be. So we have this image, we form this image in our mind, which is normally a projection of our bodies in our mind, and we hold it there, and then we begin to form a story of this person. And then this person kind of is all meshed in with survival, but this person doesn't want to admit it. So the person wants to come across as a nice person, and it has no clue that being a nice person, the reason that it wants to be a nice person is because it makes your survival better. If you can get on with people, if you can be conscientious, if other people like you, then your survival is better. So it wants to be a nice person. It wants to have the most beautiful girlfriend. Like, why do you think that you want to have the most beautiful girlfriend? It's because of survival, because you're designed, because you're set up to have the most beautiful girlfriend. Like, because a beautiful girlfriend is only our beauty, or the way that we determine beauty in our society is by two factors. First factor is the natural beauty that we see, which is a woman that's most fertile. So a woman with hips, with curves, they say that these are the women that are most fertile: red lips, black eyes, high cheekbones. All of this strong jaw is strong testosterone, and this shows strong fertility. So that's one element of beauty. The other element of beauty is cultural popularity. And this, again, is about society, because if you have a beautiful woman, then other people respect you more. Other people respect you more, you've got more chance of doing business, you've got more chance of earning money, and you've got more chance of surviving better. So, but we make all these elaborate stories. The same with a husband. Like, maybe you're set up to go for a husband with money, or maybe you're set up to go for a husband with like physical strength. Both is about surviving and the family surviving, and this guy helping you survive. So, but we've got all these elaborate stories about what's going on, about the love of your life, the soulmate, you complete me, and all these things. The reason that it feels like they complete you is not because there is such a thing as soulmates, or there is this completion between a male and female. It's because in that moment when they want you and you want them, your seeking drops, and then you feel complete and you're home. It's not that they complete you. If that was true, then it would mean that happiness is dependent on things that you can obtain and keep. Which, if you want to subscribe and believe that, then fair enough. But this isn't the channel to do that. There's lots of other channels that talk about getting your soulmate and the perfect person. And what else have we got? Having kids. I want to have kids because I want to evolve society, and I want to bring up really like open-minded people that can be inventive and creative and look at life differently. You're genetically set up to want kids because it carries on your genes. So it's about that human line, those genetics carrying on living. So whatever story you tell yourself, it's not you, the one that's creating the story, that's making the action happen. It's a natural instinct that arises in the body, and then there's a story formed that creates you. And then you think that you're doing the action and you're choosing to have kids, whereas it's something that's predetermined billions and billions and billions of years ago. In fact, you could go back forever as to when that action begun. So what about your career? So even if you pick being an artist, being a writer, being an inventor, if you pick being an accountant or business person, whatever job it is you pick, it's about producing money in order to survive in this society, this cooperative society. And even if you're doing your passion, it's still about producing enough money to feed you and to be part of this society. Friendships are the same. Relationships, parents are the same. It's all about supporting each other and surviving, getting on and supporting each other when you need each other. Recently, when a friend of mine lost someone that lost their close and intimate partner, their biggest fear, or they missed the person, but one of the big things that kept coming up again and again and again was that that person always supported them, and now they have no one to support them. So notice that equals survival. If you don't have someone to support you, your survival is weakened. It's totally impersonal. So what happens is we've got this natural survival instinct to move towards pleasure, which is survival, and to move towards away from pain. So we've got this natural survival instinct to act out, and everybody's is different. It doesn't mean that everybody's going to be set up to want the max amount of money. We've all got our roles and our natural urges to act out in this society. So some people might be the creative people, some people might be the business people, some people might be orientated with money, and none of it's better or worse. It's just the way it is. So we have these natural instincts to survive, and then we create this illusory character, and we tell ourselves all types of stories about who this illusory character is and why they do things. And then we get into all these conflicting feelings in our chakra system because things don't work out the way we expect or the way that we want our lives to work out. And we begin to live in this constant world of you, and everything's about you. Everything's circling around what you get, like your relationships, your job. All your problems are about them not fulfilling you and giving you pleasure, and you want more pleasure, whether it be more happiness, whether it be more freedom, whether it be more sex, whether it be more joy, whether it be more food, whether it be more beauty or more money. You want all those things, and then you begin to see all these things in your life as things that inhibit you or give to you, and you create this identity, and you think that this identity needs to get somewhere and needs to sort itself out. So you think that this identity is one day going to arrive at the place where it has enough pleasure, it will suddenly feel content, that it will have enough things. But it won't, because you're living in a lie. Firstly, you're living in a lie that you exist, that you choose, that you have free will, that you're going to arrive at freedom in the future, that you're going to satisfy yourself in this life, that you're born, that you die, that you're not. Most people can't even admit that all their actions is about survival. As soon as you begin to admit this about yourself, it's so much easier, like, to understand what you want. Otherwise, it gets really complicated. Like, somebody is late for an arrangement, so they arrange to meet you at a time and they're late for arrangement. So what does that do to you? It makes you feel disempowered, it makes you feel unrespected. Both of these make you a lower person, less likely to survive. It means they've disrespected you, they didn't care about your feelings. That means that you're less important. That means you're further down on the surviving order. What else is there? So they're late for you, then you can't do your business, you're wasting time. Both of those are, you want to be creative, you want to be productive, so for your survival. So you want to be doing things to get on with your life. So just see all of that. So it really bugs you, like you feel like that you're disrespected, you feel like they don't love you or they don't like you. And all of that equals that you're unlovable. Being unlovable means that one day you could potentially be kicked out of this society and be abandoned, and you'd have to survive by yourself. And you presume that would be a failure because we all have to survive together in our current society. But this not acknowledging all of this can get into very complicated dynamics. So if you just acknowledge that and you just feel those feelings, that actually your pain around them being late for you, then the pain is feeling lonely, feeling abandoned, feeling like you'll die ultimately, that you'll be kicked out of society, that you're not good enough. So just acknowledge those feelings. What happens though is when you meet them, what you'll want to do is you'll want to do a power play. You'll want to work out a way to get higher than them, to put them down and make them realize that they've done something bad. So then you'll act out of a power play and then you'll have an argument with them. If you can just admit your feelings, it doesn't mean that you don't tell that person to F, beep, 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 off. Doesn't mean that that's not the right way to, I don't mean to go and say to people when they don't turn up on time for you to F off. That's not the right word. I meant that's not the right way to communicate, but I meant like, it doesn't mean that you don't doesn't mean that you don't stop meeting up with them, that you don't put up a boundary. You don't say, nope, that's enough, we're not meeting again. But being honest with yourself, it means that when that person finally comes, you won't then put a power play on to try and put them down. You'll acknowledge what's going on, and hopefully then you can say to them, I feel hurt that you were late, or there were other things that I needed to do, and then you can just be honest about that's how you felt, and then hopefully they have a good reason why they were late, and then there can be a communication that's honest. But if you just don't acknowledge it, and you don't acknowledge any of those feelings to yourself, then what you'll do is try and peck them down. So this identity believes that it's real, and it also sucks in consciousness. So it sucks in this consciousness and it feels like it's alive, like you're an identity that's alive, moving through time. And the way the identity works is always on seeking to get pleasure and seeking to avoid pain, seeking to survive and seeking to avoid non-survival, seeking love, not seeking to avoid not being loved. All of it's about survival though. And what it does is it creates all these stories about you in your head, about what you're going to do, where you're going to go, and it's always working to try and produce the best outcomes for you. But it kind of goes a little bit loopy because it gets stuck in things. And the reason it gets stuck in things is because you're not genuine with yourself. So somebody not turning up for you on time or forgetting a dinner date or something can play around in your head for hours and hours or days or weeks or something. And basically at the source of it, it's because it challenged your survival at the deepest level. But you can go through many layers of that. You can go through the first initial layer that's the hatred for them, and then you can see that your parents used to do this or your friends used to do this, and then you can eventually get down to the deepest level of they challenged my survival and I feel lonely. But that can go around for hours in your head, and what you'll be daydreaming about is putting them down, how to get one over them, why you're not good enough, why does it always happen to you? And this creates the idea that you exist as somebody in this imagined land. And this is happening for most people all the time. They've got this internal monologue that's going on with all these feelings that are happening, and it kind of gets very confusing. It feels like you're just running from one place to another in tension, which you are, because you're living firstly in dishonesty. You're not being honest about what you actually feel. And secondly, you are lying to yourself continuously, and it sends all your emotions into disarray. Like if you just tell yourself a lie now, it feels uncomfortable. If you meet a liar, it feels uncomfortable. But the illusory you is constantly in lying. So your body is all out of sync. So your body has the desire to survive, the desire to be liked. And then on the story level, you've got all these complicated stories about how you need to meet the man of your dreams, how you need to have a home on top of a mountain with 100 animals, blah, 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 blah. And your body in each moment is just desiring to survive, which is very simple. So this person that you take yourself to be becomes sucked inside the body, and consciousness gets sucked inside the body, and it feels like that person that's sort of around here, always talking to itself and saying, I choose this, I don't choose this. And then the consciousness is pulled in here too. And energetically, it feels like you're separate from the world. And it's too identified with your feelings, your emotions, and the body. And it feels uncomfortable. Consciousness is free, it's home, it's spacious, it's infinite, it's free. It's not that it's no feeling, like feeling arises in it because that's part of this dream, but it's just free. Whereas when you're here, you're limited and you're always stuck in yourself and what you feel. So is non-duality for you? No. Because you don't exist, you're not alive. Who is this you? You'll notice that this you that you think yourself to be is lots of feelings and ideas appearing in every moment, and it's constantly changing. Who you see yourself to be and think yourself to be is so different from who you were 10 years ago. It's always changing and evolving, and it's not a solid thing. What is solid is the experiencer, is that which is looking out. And that which is looking out isn't separate from everything, and it is no thing, and it's empty. And this you that you take yourself to be is always seeking for a better emotional state, for better things. And basically, deep down, what it's seeking for is survival. It wants to survive, but it gets interpreted into lots of complex ideas. So non-duality is nothing for you. You can't get hold of non-duality. The one that wants non-duality in the human world wants it because it thinks it will make its survival better. It thinks that it will experience more pleasure. But that which hears my voice, not the hearing, but that which is conscious of my voice, that which is conscious of the color of my skin and the hair of this room, but conscious of it without knowing, without intellectually knowing. So conscious in this mysterious way, without intellect, this unknowing. That's who you are, this mystery. So it's conscious but mysterious.